Hi, I'm Jennifer McGuire, and I'm a guest teacher over on twopeasinAbucket.com for the Holiday Thinking Inking class. This week, I'm going to share even more ideas for using embossing powders. We'll be doing these three very different cards, and each features a few fun techniques with embossing powders. So the first project just shows how to create an embossed rose. You can see these roses here. These are really popular right now. I'm creating little roses out of rolled paper. I'm going to show you the way that I do it. There are so many ways to do it, but I also like to top it off with some embossing powders so they're nice and firm and shiny. So we're going to create some roses out of circles like that. And what I'm going to do is just cut kind of wavy around in a spiral fashion. You can cut it straight, you can first punch it with a scallop circle, you can do all kinds of things. But I would like to just do it uneven, like I am here, going in a spiral towards the center. You could first draw it, but I just kind of hand do it. And once I'm done, I cut this tail off here, and now I have this spiral. And here's an example of where I first drew it, but really it doesn't make a bit of difference in the world. So then I take a smaller punch circle and I cover it with dry adhesive and just leave it sitting on my table so that it's ready, because we're going to stick our rose to it when we're done. So I'm just taking tweezers and I'm rolling from the start at the inside and roll so that the color of the paper is towards the inside, and I just keep rolling. There are many ways to do this. You could start at the other end, you can roll around a paper piercer, whatever works best for you. And then I'm just got it into this tight bud here and just kind of squeezing it, giving it a little bit of pressure. And you can see it's nice and tight, and then I just let go of it and let it unravel because we want it to unravel some, and I start working it flat. So I'm kind of pressing it down and out so that it flattens some so we can see the color inside. So here's one of the circles covered with adhesive. I decided to use a bit of a bigger circle so that we could spread it out some more. And I'm just going to start pressing it down, and you'll see the colors start to show. Just keep working it, and then I want to work that center open so I can put a brad or a button there. Now to make sure it stays, I'm going back with some glossy accents and squirting underneath in various places, and then I give it some time to dry. And by the way, this is all basic gray paper. Once it's dry, I'm going in with some fired brick red distress ink and my ink blending tool just to cover up those white edges so that it's nice and red. Now I have a piece of scrap paper here, and I'm just putting some adhesive on the end, and I'm going to stick it to the back just so that it's a holding spot for when I emboss this. So I'm pressing this really firmly into my distress embossing ink. You can use any embossing ink here, but I like this one in particular because it's really sticky and I want to get a lot of embossing powder on this flower. So I'm just pressing it right onto the flower, and I'm going to shake on some clear embossing powder. So you can see lots of it goes in there. It's okay if it fills in the cracks a bit because you're going to want it to get nice and thick and shiny. So I'm just going to heat this up. By having that scrap paper handle, I don't get my fingers hot. So you can see it's starting to melt. And I did a few different layers on there. I just kept adding more and more. Poking a hole through the center here and adding a basic gray brad, very simple. I also wanted to emboss these leaves. They're felt leaves from Hero Arts, and I wanted them to be shiny just to match the flower. So I'm just pressing it onto the ink pad, heating it up, and while it's still hot, you can watch here, while it's still hot, I'm going to dip it again in the powder. I'm going to keep doing that until I'm real happy with the shine on the felt leaves. So it's a great way to change up the look. You can do this with buttons, with ribbon, with any embellishment you have. I also wanted to show you that you can use embossing with distress ink. Most dye inks you cannot emboss with because it dries too quickly, but distress ink stays wet a little bit longer so you can move quick and emboss with it. This is a Hero Arts stamp. I'm using peeled paint distress ink, just pressing some basic gray paper onto it, and then you'll see when I take this off, I'm going to move very quickly to shake on some clear embossing powder. And this will be a great tone-on-tone effect. And I love all the colors of distress ink, so it's great that you can really get the look of any colored embossing powder just by using clear over it. And you can see here how nicely it turns into a green embossed image. Now I wanted to show you how to make a vertical card. So I just cut an 8.5 by 11 piece of Hero Arts paper in half, and I'm just scoring it down the center. I always seem to score twice for some reason, but this is a Martha Stewart scoring board, and it is perfect for doing cards like this. This is basic gray ribbon lace, and I'm going to just put a strip of it across the card here. You take the release paper off the back, and I'm going to put my greeting over it, just something fun and frilly to add to the card. So you can see the finished card here with the roses, the felt leaves, all covered in embossing powder. Next, I wanted to show you on another project, pattern paper resist. This is a very fun way to get more out of your pattern paper, and I did it with the snowflakes in the background here. And you can see here close up the pattern showing through the snowflakes and around the blue around the snowflakes. So this is a stamp press from Fiskars. It's my favorite thing to use my clear and cling stamps on. You just put them right onto the stamp press and press down. I'm using embossing ink again. And this is a die cut shape from a Tim Holtz Sizzix die. And that's basic gray paper. So I stamped with embossing ink, and I'm going to go in with some clear embossing powder, shake it on, lightly tap it off, and then heat emboss. And you can kind of see the snowflakes there. So you can use an ink blending tool and put a light layer of distress ink over the images, but what I actually did was just go direct to paper and just smear it around so I could get a really dark blue image. And then I'll wipe the extra ink off with a cloth. You can do this with other inks. Almost every ink works for this technique, but I like the distress inks because the colors are just beautiful. And now I'm going to go back with a little bit of Vintage Photo, which is my favorite of the brown inks, to add just a little bit to the edge, which kind of tones it down and kind of pulls everything together, gives a nice finished edge. You can see if you used a darker color like a dark brown that you wouldn't see the pattern around the snowflakes, and the pattern would only show through the snowflakes. Next is a project showing distress embossing powder, and that's what I used on the reindeer here. It just looks like he has some fur on him, but it's actually the distress embossing powder. So I stamped these images with Hero Arts, and I just colored in the reindeer with brown marker. I wanted to also show you how I like to cover the back of my cards so that when I'm inking they don't get all messy. I put a post-it note in one direction and then a post-it note in the other direction just to kind of hold them each in place, and then I trim off the extra. So now my back is protected until I'm done with the card. This is distress embossing powder. You want to shake it up really good. It has release crystals in it that you want to mix up. And this is a Fantastics. It's from Sukaneko. It's just a little inking tool, and I'm dabbing it onto some embossing ink and coloring over all of the brown on the reindeer. Just makes them sticky. And I'm shaking on the distress embossing powder, which will end up having texture, and so it'll look like he has brown fur. You can see here after I heated it and rubbed off the extra embossing powder that it ends up with this great brown texture. I also wanted to show you on this card a fun trick with white embossing powder. I take a stamp and I clean it off really good. This is a cling background from Hero Arts, and I actually just leave it on the table to ink it. I'm just inking around the edges with embossing ink. Any embossing ink will work on any of these. And I'm dabbing away some of the ink around the inside. I wanted to be able to stamp over my reindeer without embossing white dots on him. But you could do a whole background with this technique too. So I'm just going to lay them down, press them down real good, and then add some white embossing powder. And you'll see it's only around the reindeer. I kind of missed the center intentionally. Now I'm going back with different colors of distress ink and my ink blending tool, and you want to start really light and off of the paper to get even color around the edges. So I'm just going to go in with lots of different colors and wipe away the extra ink that will end up on the white embossed dots. And it just kind of gives this great cloud in the center, a highlighted center. It's really fun. I added some Hero Arts black pearls for the eyes and nose. These are my favorite for the little critter's eyes and nose. And I'm using some white enamel from Ranger to add a little white dot to his eye just to make it pop some. So here you can see what the edge of the card looks like, and then the finished card with the cute little reindeer in the center. If you have any questions or want to participate in the challenge, please visit twopeasinabucket.com on October 18th in the Thinking Inking class. Thanks for watching.